Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katherine and this is Raspberry Reads. I have a tag video for you today on this rather gloomy Sunday, I must admit. So the lighting is a little bit dimmer than I'm normally used to working with, but in any case, this tag video, so I was tagged by Tristan over at Space Books, and actually this is a tag that Tristan created himself, so I'm really pleased to get to it. And I've got just the description here. So this is the Roadmap of Your Life book tag, and Tristan basically just wanted to have people map out their life's journey thus far and into the future in terms of books they would associate with those time periods. I'll link Tristan's video down below so you can get a sense of what he meant by this. And so he basically says, I'm referring to my tablet, so he says, what is a book that reminds you of or takes place in each place that you've lived? This could mean country, state, province, city, town, or apartment house, etc. And then just come up with a book that really resonates with you and the time that you spent in each place, that you've had a mailing address. And then, since the roadmap not only shows where you've been, but also where you're going, what book reminds you of places like your next destination. And I did not too long ago the time and place tag. And although there are similarities to these two tags, and I'll link that one below as well in case you're interested, these are actually two slightly different tags, different prompts. This one I think is a little bit more sentimental in terms of that it has, personal meaning with the places and the books associated with each prompt, or each place that you've been, and it'll look so different for everybody, right? Yes, okay, so let's just get started. So I'm Canadian and I was born in Ottawa, and I lived near Ottawa in the province of Ontario until I was 9 years old, and then my family relocated to British Columbia near to Vancouver. So starting with Ottawa, I couldn't find any books that resonated with me for the specific village that I lived in, nor could I think of any books, at least that I've read, that are set in Ottawa. But the book that author, I guess I should say, that resonated with me the most for my young childhood years was Stuart McLean and the Vinyl Cafe series that he wrote. Stuart McLean is a very well-known Canadian author, and he did a radio program on CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and these were all stories from the Vinyl Cafe, and he would sort of narrate the stories, and also had lots of other interesting things on that program. Stuart McLean sadly passed away a number of years ago now, but his books are still treasures for many Canadians, and the reason why the Vinyl Cafe stories remind me of my young childhood is because my family loved to listen to that radio program. It was on Sundays at around lunchtime, I believe, and we listened to that from as long as I can remember, even to when we moved to BC, and I was a bit older, we were still listening to that program. And there's too many stories to mention here, but I tended to like the Christmas ones. So there's one where Dave, who's the main protagonist, the father, he has to cook a turkey, and hilarity ensues. There's another one that I quite enjoy where they go on a road trip, I think to see a distant relative. That one is pretty good. There's one where they have to create or make Christmas puddings, and this squirrel runs after them down the road. They're very difficult to kind of summarize. It's sort of like one of those you have to be there type situations, but if you're a Canadian, I very much recommend listening to the Vinyl Cafe stories if you're not already familiar with them. And the books are also available worldwide, so they're definitely worth checking out, and I can pop a few links below. But yes, so Stuart McLean, Vinyl Cafe stories, very special to me in terms of my young childhood. But another part of my childhood is that I spent a lot of time in Toronto. So even though I grew up outside of Ottawa, my aunt and uncle, so my dad's best friends, live in Toronto. And so every summer we would go and spend time with them. And so I thought I had to mention Toronto because it is a special place to me. And that's where my cousins still are. And so I picked Michael Ondaatje's In the Skin of a Lion. So this is historical fiction, and it's set sort of during the industrialization of Toronto. It's a mystery. I think there's like romance elements of it. I read this a few years ago now. But yes, it's set in the 1920s and 1930s, and it is very much set in terms of exploring an immigrant experience. Michael Ondaatje wrote The English Patient, which is also a fabulous book. I tend to like his writing style. It's quite poetic. And yeah, this was a pretty good book as well. I would say that this particular story has no connection whatsoever to my childhood spent at my aunt and uncle's outdoor swimming pool. However, this is a really good history, fictionalized history of the immigrant experience and the growth of Toronto as the biggest city in Canada. So yes, if you haven't read this one, then it is worth checking out, but that's what I wanted to put for the like accompanying part of my early childhood. So yes, then we moved to British Columbia when I was around 9, and that's where my mom and my brother are still based. Not specifically in Vancouver, but in the Lower Mainland, as it's called. And so I thought that I would pick something that represents Vancouver, but also I lived in Burnaby, British Columbia, which is just adjacent to Vancouver, for just under a year when we first moved there. So I really wanted to sort of capture the multicultural essence of Vancouver and what I remember most about it in terms of that, those formative years as an older child and young teen. And so I picked Wayson Choy's The Jade, Peony. And this is set in the 1930s and 1940s in Vancouver, and mostly in Chinatown. And it's an immigrant experience of Chinese Canadians, basically. This is a beautiful story. It's very character centric, and it's sort of like a family saga type of book, because it has the Popo, so the grandmother's experience, and the mother's experience, and then the children as well. Yes, it is a beautiful story, and I really loved spending time in Vancouver's Chinatown. This also covers Gastown as well, which is sort of near to Chinatown. And this book reminded me just so much of the historic elements of modern Vancouver and how modern Vancouver has come to be in terms of its culture and identity and the people that live there, because Vancouver has a very significant Asian population, and Chinese culture is a huge part of modern Vancouver's culture. So this book, I think, is a really important, I guess, window into or a perspective of Vancouver's history, and I think it's beautiful. It's probably one of the best historical fiction books set in Vancouver and by or set in Canada, I should say, and by a Canadian author that I've ever read. So yeah, The Jade, Peony by Wayson Choy, and this is representing my move to Vancouver as an older child. The next book that I wanted to share is, and I don't have a copy of this, is Miracle at Willowcreek by Annette LeBox. And I've mentioned this book on my channel before, but this is actually set in the town, town area in which I grew up, my teenage years. And this basically is a children's book, I should say, or a middle grade book. And it is about a girl named Tess and how she needs to try and save sandhill cranes, the bird species. The book was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it is pretty unusual to have a book set in the area in which you live, especially if you live in a smaller area, and more so specifically about the natural environment. So where I'm from, it is the natural environment that I hold closest to my heart, and so that's why Miracle at Willowcreek is definitely representative of where my second home, let's say. I still call Canada and Vancouver my second home. So now we're moving into my adult years. So I did my undergraduate degree in Vancouver at Simon Fraser University. So no real change there. I suppose you could use, that's technically in Burnaby, but you could use the Jade Peony as an example of that, I would say. But then I went and did my master's degree in history, and I moved to Saskatchewan. And there's lots of books that I could choose for that aren't specifically about the prairies, but you know, this one is one of my favorites, so I had to mention it, and that's W.O. Mitchell's Who Has Seen the Wind. This is about a boy named Brian, who, and his life on the prairies. It was set in 1947, which was the year my dad was born. Yeah, it's a really good sort of coming of age novel, but similar to Miracle at Willowcreek, the aspects that I remember really liking about this book have to do with the scene setting and the environment. So really getting a sense of the vastness of the prairies, and then sort of like that feeling of being in a more agricultural area. That's why I decided to pick this one. I lived right on the edge of Saskatoon, and so the view from my window from my apartment looked out onto fields. And so yeah, this one, definitely thinking about this book makes me think about my time in Saskatoon, is all I can really say. So yeah, if you haven't read Who Has Seen the Wind by W.O. Mitchell, it's a Canadian classic. I mentioned this in my classic Canadian children's literature video, which I'll also pop in the description down below. And the second to last book that I wanted to mention is all about my time here in the UK, and more specifically in Oxford. So I went to the University of Oxford to do my PhD, and I've stayed around the area, let's put it that way. So there's so many books you could pick for Oxford, but I thought I would pick one that I haven't yet read, which is Babel, I don't know how to pronounce it, by R.F. Kuang. And this is set at the University of Oxford, and so this one's been all over BookTube and BookTok for a while now, since it came out, I think 2 years ago, and a year and a half ago, something like that. But just to read this sort of excerpt for you. So this is a fantasy book, I should say. So it says Oxford, 1836, the city of dreaming spires, which is what Oxford is known as. It is the center of all knowledge and progress in the world. And at its center is Babel, the Royal Institute of Translation, the tower from which all the power of the empire flows. Orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious guardian, Babel seemed like paradise to Robin Swift until it became a prison. But can a student stand against the empire? Yes, I've been wanting to get to this one for quite a while. I gave it to my brother actually for Christmas a couple of years ago, and I think he enjoyed it. But in any case, as I said, there's lots of books you could pick for Oxford, so I thought, why not go for one that I haven't read yet but would like to get to soon. Have you read Babel? If so, without any spoilers, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. And the last bit of this tag is to talk a little bit about, the direction that you're your life is headed in the future, and in a book that would represent that. And I guess all I'll say for now is that I've got some life changes coming up, and so I thought I would pick a classic book that signifies changes coming up. And that I've got here the Dr. Seuss Treasury, and it's Oh, the Places You'll Go. And I think I'm going to read it to you because I think it's such a beautiful story and will hopefully resonate with a lot of you. We've got graduation season coming up, whether that's from like little school or university, what have you. People are getting married in the summer. So yeah, there's lots of ways you could infer them, or there's lots of ways you could connect the messages of this book onto your own personal situation. Oh, Wilbur, you don't need to snore that. So yes, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the guy who'll decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look 'em over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along, you'll start happening too. Pause to show you quick. It's too hard to read and show you at the same time. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to great heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and soon you'll take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be the best of the best. Wherever you go, you'll be top all the rest. You will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch, and your gang will fly on, you'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are then that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You will come into a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're darked. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare stay out? Do you dare go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right and 3/4, or maybe not quite, or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you will find, for a mind maker upper to make up his mind. You can get so confused that you'll start in to race down long-winded roads at breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, towards a most useless place, the waiting place. For people just waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting. Waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for the wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all the waiting and staying. You'll find the right places where boom bands are playing. With banner flip-flapping once more, you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky, ready because you're that kind of guy. Oh, the places you'll go. There's fun to be done, there are points to be scored, there are games to be won, and the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame. You'll be famous as famous can be, with the whole wide world watching you win on TV. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too, games you can't win because you'll be playing against you. All alone, whether you like it or not. Alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you will go, though the weather be foul. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. On you will go, though the kraken cracks howl. Onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On and on you will hike, and I know you'll hike far and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, and as you already know, you'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98 3/4% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. So, be your name Buxbaum or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Alley Van Allen O'Shea, you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. So yeah, that's such a classic story to read, right? So lots of new directions, and I'm sure that applies to many people out there as well. So thank you very much, Tristan, for tagging me in this book tag. And I think rather than tagging individual people, I'll just simply say that if you would like to do this tag, please do. I've got so many people I think would create really interesting responses to this prompt, so I don't want to narrow it down. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing this tag out there in the near future. And that just leaves me to say that I hope you're doing really well, and I hope you're enjoying whatever it is that you're reading, and I'll see you soon in a new video. Take care.